Hello, beautiful friends. Thank you for joining me and the Patreon family here for our third in the series where we're looking at the fixed stars, and we're looking at the royal fixed stars of Persia. Today, we're exploring Aldebaran. Aldebaran, the majestic star in the constellation of Gemini when we're looking at tropical astrology. It's Taurus if you're looking through sidereal astrology, and in actual visual astrology, Aldebaran appears in the constellation of Taurus. But we'll get into that in a minute. A little bit of astronomy about Aldebaran. It is located 65 light years from the sun. As I said, it's in the sidereal or visual constellation of Taurus, and it's at 10 degrees of the sign of Gemini in tropical astrology. So if you've got anything around the 10-degree mark of Gemini in your chart, then you will have a conjunction with Aldebaran. We'll talk about conjunctions at the end of this video. I'm going to go through what it means to have a conjunction with everything and what it might bring you and what its significations were in ancient mythology, not mythologies, in ancient law of astrology. But it is the brightest star in the constellation of Taurus, and it's the star in the eye of Taurus when we draw constellational art on. I'll show you in just a second in Stellarium, but it is generally considered to be the 14th brightest star in the night sky. It's a star that is cooler than the sun, so it doesn't give out as much heat as the sun. The thing is, though, it's over 400 times as luminous or as bright as our sun, and it's massive compared to our sun. It's known as a red giant compared to our little yellow sun. So it's a massive star, but not as hot, and it's therefore considered to be somewhat older than our sun for that reason. It spins very slowly, so it's got a rotation. It takes 520 days, Earth days that is, to complete a rotation once. So it takes over a year for it to turn once. But in the last 2,000 years, Aldebaran's position in the sky has only shifted by about 7 degrees. Not much at all. I'm going to share my screen with you now, and we're going to have a look at the size comparison of Aldebaran with the sun for a start. So let me share screen. There we are. So here's just an image that I prepared showing the size of Aldebaran as a red giant. As you can see, it's too big for the page. Quite literally, it's obviously too big for the page, but even in this pared down version, it's too big for the page. And their little dot is our monstrous sun, monstrous to us here on Earth, but compared to Aldebaran, it is nothing. So it isn't any wonder it's more luminous, but because it's more aged as a red giant, it's cooling, and so not as hot as our sun. Now I'm going to share further, and we're going to have a look at the stellarium position of Aldebaran in the sky. So here we are in stellarium, and as you can see, I've highlighted here Aldebaran. Down here, there's some for people who are into all the scientific information, Latin names, etc., etc. There it is right there. Stellarium, I can't recommend highly enough, my friends. If you are looking to do serious astrological work, this is a magnificent tool. It's like having visual astrology in the palm of your hand. It's fantastic. But here is Aldebaran, and here is the ecliptic line that all the planets move along. Right now, Uranus is currently moving through the sign of Taurus, so it's about here. So it's in this constellational area of Taurus. I'll turn on the art in just a second to show you. But I wanted to also point out some of the other stars in the sky. It's quite a big, famous area of stars that are well known. Capella, you might have heard of. Betelgeuse, anyone who's familiar with Tim Burton will know of Betelgeuse, who did that movie Beetlejuice. And of course, here we have the 3 stars from the belt of Orion sitting there. We've got Rigel up here. So Rigel and Betelgeuse, if you're ever looking at the night sky, Rigel and Betelgeuse, and of course I'm at the Australian vantage point here with this particular image from Stellarium. They sit at opposite sides of the belt of Orion, and of course we've got another couple of stars here, Bellatrix and Saiph. they're also forming a part of the constellation of Orion there. But also the brightest star in the night sky is Sirius, sitting out here. So you're in this area of the sky, very busy area when it comes to stars. And of course, this is the Milky Way running through here. This is the Pleiades, and they often feature in ancient mythologies and what have you, but they're actually visually, I find them a little bit hard to spot, but because they're not big and bright like Capella or Sirius, but they are very close to Aldebaran as well, and close to the ecliptic plane. We've already talked about in the previous versions of this series, we've talked about how important it is that the star of the royal stars of Persia were located on the ecliptic plane. There's so few stars that are on the ecliptic plane, and so here we are with, you can see there's not many of these bright stars, a couple that are sort of not quite as luminous, that sit close to the ecliptic plane. But what the ancient Persians did was choose the brightest that were there. And of course, if you have a conjunction by having a planet at that point, it's going to influence you strongly. Whereas a conjunction with Capella, way down here, way off the ecliptic plane, is not going to be as powerful in your chart. I'll talk a bit more about that a little later. But firstly, I want to show you the constellational art. And I do have the constellational art by H.A. Ray. No, actually, this version does not have the H.A. Ray art. That's why I wasn't really recognizing it. So I actually have for those who want to know, I have a downloadable version of Stellarium, and I use the constellational links of H.A. Ray. I actually can't even see here which links they're using. This is the mobile app that's just available for free online. So a bit of a difference there. But this is Taurus. You can see it mentioned here. Obviously, this is Orion. We've got Gemini, Cancer over here. And if I put on the constellational art, it makes it even clearer. There is the drawing of the bull, and there is Aldebaran and the eye of the bull. So that's what we're looking at here. I'll stop the share now and go back to me.
So here I am again. Thank you. Now, the history about Aldebaran in culture. Well, traditionally, the name Aldebaran is derived from Arabic. It's an Arabic name and the Arabic version was Aldebaran. But the word Aldebaran means follower or the follower. And they assume that it was given this name because it follows the Pleiades. Now, a number of astrologers don't like that, and I'm not entering into the argument, but their logic, and I agree with their logic, is that each star follows another star. So Aldebaran isn't the only follower. All stars are. And when we talk about followers, we're talking about what rises, the star. So firstly, you might have the Pleiades rising, and then Aldebaran follows. So, that happens for all stars. All stars are followers of another star or another constellation of some sort. So that is the argument against this being the reason it was named Aldebaran. But I don't know. I'm just presenting their logic, which makes sense to me, but I don't know the true meaning behind why it was called the follower. So some people say it's because it follows the Pleiades, and some people disagree. So Aldebaran has been thought to be eminently fortunate, for years and years, from ancient Persian times 5,000 years ago, when it was given the title of a royal star. It was considered to be one of the guardians of the sky. That's what all the royal stars were, and it marks, at the time that it was given that title, it marked the vernal equinox. Also, it's known as the Watcher of the East. So, it's the Eastern Star, apparently, and it's connected with the Archangel Michael. Now, all of the ancient stars of Persia, the royal stars, they are connected in some way or given connection and connotation to a certain angelic energy or an angelic being. In this case, it's Michael, the military commander of the heavenly host. And so this is considered to be, when we see Aldebaran, it's considered to have connections to the military.
because of Michael's association with it, which is really quite interesting. And I'll talk a little further about that in just a second. Now, to the ancient Egyptians, it was obviously part of the constellation of Taurus, which they connected with Osiris. Their god Osiris was connected with Taurus. But it was a star that was worshipped, obviously, by the ancient Babylonians, who gave it the title of the royal star of the East, the Chinese, the Druids, and tribes of the Amazon. And, you know, it's been recognized worldwide as a significant star from ancient times. Now, Ptolemy he saw Aldebaran as an important star with a military significance. We've already established that that was the case, but he didn't necessarily see that it was a sign of military victory or success in war, because Aldebaran sits opposite the star Antares. So if you can visualize the Astro Wheel, we've got Aldebaran in Gemini at 10 degrees, and you've got Antares in Sagittarius at 9 degrees, almost exactly opposite one another. Now, Aldebaran has the nature of Mars, according to Ptolemy. It carries the characteristics of Mars, the warrior, the hero, the fighter, but Antares carries the dual nature of Mars and Jupiter. So even though Aldebaran pertains to war and military leadership, etc., Antares has this extra clout, extra oomph, because of Jupiter, Jupiter's good luck, Jupiter's expansion. So Antares is the star more connected to victory and military success than Aldebaran, even though both of them are connected to the idea of war because of their association with Mars and heroism. So it's very interesting to me that we've got two stars with strong connections to Mars as part of the royal stars of ancient Persia. So yeah, just so you know, if you are ever asked as an astrologer to predict wars and outcomes of wars, etc., don't look at Aldebaran as being a significator there, because it's not always the case due to his opposition to Antares. Let's talk a little bit more about the astrology. It is considered to be one of the most fortunate stars in the sky, and it is supposedly connected to the idea of obtaining riches and honor, especially in war. But as I've just said, that's what the ancients believed, but it wasn't always dependable because of this opposition to Antares. So anyone who has Aldebaran prominent in the sky may always feel like they're a bit under stress or in a constant state of anxiety, unfortunately. So it's good to have some remedies for that, you know, some meditation practices. You might like to sort of, you know, spend regular time at yoga retreats or doing things that keep your stress and anxiety under control. But the thing with this is that you will be successful in making money with Aldebaran prominent in the sky. I actually know of some people who title their companies and bank accounts and things like that after this star because of the success that it brings in generating money. Now, to Ptolemy also, Aldebaran, as I said, was a Mars star, and because it is this red giant, it's connected to Mars as well. And sometimes it can be mistaken for Mars in the sky because they both shine really red at times. No surprise that it's been associated, therefore, with war and military. It's also considered to be a wealth star. There's a whole grouping of stars that are wealth stars, not just the royal stars of ancient Persia. And of course, Aldebaran happens to be one of those. And there are other prominent stars, particularly the stars in Gemini, that form a part of this wealth group. So if you have, you know, prominent positions in Gemini, then, you know, you do carry a lot more, let's say, luck towards generating wealth. You know, Betelgeuse, Regale, Bellatrix, Capella, Alnilam, all of these stars fall into the category of wealth stars. But Aldebaran particularly gives honor, it gives intelligence, it gives eloquence of speech, it gives steadfastness, integrity, it gives popularity, it gives courage. It can make you quite fierce and, you know, that fighter warrior spirit. It gives a lot of responsibility, as I've said, and leadership in military circles and public honors. You can gain benefits and power through other people if you have Aldebaran doing certain beneficial things. We'll talk about those things in just a second. But the thing is that Aldebaran's benefits don't always prove long-lasting. So it can bring you good stuff, but is it going to endure? Is it going to be solid for a lifetime, you know? So, or even after your lifetime, are your children going to come along and squander all the successes that you've amassed due to Aldebaran? Now, when it is in a conjunction, we're going to talk further about the conjunctions in just a minute, but I want to point out firstly that if you have it in a conjunction with either your ascendant or your sun, both of which have connections to, well, the ascendant is your body and the sun is vitality, Aldebaran here can give you extraordinary energy, and I've seen that to be the case in people's lives. You'll be ahead of other people and in life, and have a ability to have high leadership positions. I'll get my words out. You do have to be careful if you've got this position though for making enemies. Remember the nature of Mars in its shadow side can, piss people off and make enemies of others. So you have to balance this shadow and light of Mars type energy if you've got Aldebaran either with the sun or with the ascendant. Now let's take a look at various connections with Mars. Perhaps before I start talking about this, I need to mention that I will be talking about parents when we do the Royal Stars Academy, which is why we're looking at these 4 Royal Stars in this series in the lead up to the launch of the Royal Stars Academy. Now, we'll be talking about parents, which is a certain technique for interpreting the influence of fixed stars, and it's very accurate and very powerful. But for this video, I'm just looking at whether you have a conjunction. And conjunctions work with Aldebaran because Aldebaran is so close to the ecliptic plane. Other stars, not so much. You need to work with the Paran idea for fixed stars to work with other in connection with your chart through Parans. But when you have a conjunction with particularly Regulus, Antares, and Aldebaran, not so much Fulmar because it's quite away from the ecliptic, but just the same, it's one of the 4 royal stars. But back to Aldebaran, a conjunction here will bring you things. Okay, so you can work with conjunctions when the star is sitting on or close to the ecliptic plane like this. So that's what we're looking at here, conjunctions of planets and points with Aldebaran. As I said, just to reiterate, in my Royal Stars Academy, we'll be looking at Parans sort of at level 2 or 3 in the 4 levels that we will do with my course. We'll be looking at Parans, how to interpret them and how to work with them. So the ascendant in conjunction with Aldebaran can bring wealth. Oh, I should point out too, I need to honour my teachers here, Robson and Ebertine, who have written extensively on the influence of fixed stars. So wealth and power come when you have the ascendant with Aldebaran, so at 10 degrees of Gemini. I will also point out that you actually can only work with an orb of 2 degrees when you're looking at fixed stars. Anything more than that is just not worth noting. So wealth, power, courage, generosity, the ability to rise into a position of authority as life goes on is here when we have Aldebaran on the ascendant. Material success. In life, we've said he's a wealth star. You may also need to be careful because this is falling in the house of the body. Be careful of Mars-like injuries, cuts, wounds, accidents, sores and injuries to the face, pains in the head and fevers, Mars-type wounds. Even if Mars is nowhere near your ascendant, this can be a cause of it. But as I said, extraordinary energy, getting leading positions in life, and watch out for making enemies. Now, if you have the midheaven in a conjunction with Aldebaran, well, you have the ability to create honor in your lifetime, honor for yourself, preferment, good fortune. You also have the ability to be favored by women, which is a powerful thing. Mars energy, it's like Mars is lifted up, that energy, and women are all hearts flutter and, preferment from women, favors from women. Success in trade and in any occupations that have a Mars nature, like engineering, military strategy, anything that involves cutting or machinery. These are Mars type fields. when you have, now this is an interesting one, and I hope nobody watching this video has it, but when we have part of fortune in a conjunction with Mars, it is considered in ancient law to be an indicator of poverty. It's like Aldebaran and the part of fortune kind of suck each other dry, I suppose, in a way, because the part of fortune is, as the name suggests, the point in the chart where we can generate our fortune. And Aldebaran is a star of wealth. You would think the combination of the two would be auspicious, but according to ancient law, it's not. So I hope nobody has that. When we have the sun conjunct Aldebaran, again, we've got this energy, this perseverance. You can obtain a lot of military leadership and material honors in life as well, but again, danger of losing material honors as life goes on, or by your children after you're gone. Dangers of quarrels with the law or by the law. You can obtain riches, but it can lead you to an ending in disgrace and ruin, according to the ancient law. Diseases like fevers are also possible, and violent death, according to this. Now, I have heard a very interesting lecture about these strong Hellenistic statements, and it was a really interesting lecture, but the main takeaway from this lecture was that the Hellenistic, like Ptolemy kind of, and Menelaus and what have you, kind of statements of this nature pertain to extremes. And, you know, it was just sort of given as an example of the extreme case. But you could have something a little less, like, you know, okay, violent death. Well, maybe you have an uncomfortable death, you know, might live to a ripe old age, but your death is uncomfortable, or maybe it's death by a Mars-like thing, like a cut, or, you know, a surgery gone wrong or something like that. So, you know, take these ancient Hellenistic statements with a grain of salt, okay? But if you have a conjunction with both Mars and the Sun and Aldebaran, then there's a great potential for fevers and exposure to sort of pestilence and that sort of thing being of a negative influence on your life. Again, extraordinary energy when the sun is in a conjunction with Aldebaran, you know, getting leading positions in life. But again, watch out for enemies. Now, if the moon is with Aldebaran, it's very favorable for business. You can get a lot of honors and credit, especially if they make a conjunction in the 1st or the 10th house. It's really, really powerful. There is a danger of, in ancient wording, calamity. So we don't use that word very much anymore, do we? But yeah, a danger of calamity, but also favorable for domestic things, like moon is the domesticity, also public matters, the moon is popularity, and interestingly, religious matters are favored when the moon and Aldebaran make a conjunction. Again, we do have the potential at the extreme for violent death, and if Mars or Saturn is with Antares, which sits opposite Aldebaran, remember, if you've got either Mars or Saturn sitting with Antares at 9 degrees of Sagittarius, then according to ancient law, you're liable to be hanged or killed by a sword thrust. Let's hope not. Now, let's have a look at Mercury. Mercury in a conjunction with Aldebaran. Well, this can affect the health, you know, that you experience, even though Mercury doesn't have direct connection to health and well-being. Or maybe actually it does through Virgo, to be honest. So yeah, maybe that does actually work and make sense. Domestic affairs as well, though, are affected through Mercury and Aldebaran in conjunction. You can have prominence in life through Mercury-ruled things: communications, writing, speaking, teaching, the skills of your hands, your craftsmanship, all those things. And it can lead to material gain for you to use those things. So if you've got Mercury with Aldebaran and you've been in, I don't know, an office job or something, hey, maybe it's time to start, you know, selling your crafts on Etsy, you know, your designs on Etsy. Get that Mercury skill set happening for you with this combination. It can also be an indicator of having a lot of friends who are very wise and well learned when Aldebaran is with Mercury. When Aldebaran is with Venus, well, it can bring you a lot of honor and recognition through literature, music, and art. These sort of Venusian expressions, creative abilities can bring you a lot of honor and recognition. It's also very good when Venus is with Aldebaran for health and for marriage. So it is, it's beneficial here, and obviously giving many blessings that we wouldn't necessarily see with other combinations. But Mars, when he's with Aldebaran, great military preferment. If you're interested in getting ahead in the military, I hope you've got this conjunction. Be careful though, because once again, we have this liability to accidents, fevers, violent death again, with Mars and Aldebaran, you know, stirring up this heavy Mars energy. Now, if the moon is with Antares at the same time as Mars is with Aldebaran, then it can lead to death with a stab, not the sword, but a stab or a blow or a fall. So, you know, heads up on that one. Now, if Jupiter is in a conjunction with Aldebaran, well, it gives this, again, high honours, because Aldebaran tends to give that high honours and military preferment in sort of, I was going to say professorship, or in ecclesiastical is the term they use in the ancient law. I'm trying to use the appropriate interpretation of the word ecclesiastical, very philosophical honours, you know, recognition for being a great philosopher or wisdom keeper. Saturn in a conjunction with Aldebaran gives great afflictions. So, you know, as one might expect with the great malefic, with a rather precarious star like Aldebaran, it can make your mind behave strangely, a bit odd, you know. Now, you know, get set. I hope nobody's got this position, because it's pretty heavy duty. It gives great wickedness. So if you've got this, maybe you're a very wicked person. Sarcasm is also ruled by this combination. But in the positive, it can give a lot of verbal eloquence and a good memory. It gives a studious nature, good with legal abilities. Well, hello, you know, people who become lawyers and successful in the law can be very sarcastic and yet eloquent at the same time. And as for the wickedness, I won't comment. But yeah, domestic and material success also can be present when Saturn is conjunct Aldebaran. Now, again, if we've got the moon with Antares at the same time as Saturn is with Aldebaran, violent death, probably by hanging. Okay. Let's have a look further. Uranus with Aldebaran. It makes you very scientific. No surprises, that's just the nature of Uranus, but it's amplified. A nature lover. It can make you have a critical approach to things, analysing. It can make you very just and fair, as is the nature of Uranus. He wants to liberate and free people from bondage, etc. It can also give domestic success and political success, public honours, and interest in occult practices. But don't be surprised if you get interested in occultism that it doesn't go down well. You know, you might, in the terminology from ancient law, you might meet with disfavor through your immersion in occult practices. So heads up there. Again, we come with this combination, we have another extraordinary capacity for work, and energy levels are high. And because of this, you can achieve and accomplish a lot. So Uranus can be quite beneficial when it's with Aldebaran. When Neptune is with Aldebaran, it's connected with science and art, again, occultism, you know, the tarot, mysticism, astrology, energy healing, all these hidden modalities that aren't mainstream. You know, Neptune conjunct with Aldebaran can give mediumship, a very good intellect. Neptune's not known for its intellectual capacity, but with Aldebaran, it can give that. It can give losses through fire, electricity, or speculation. So be careful if you've got this. But you can gain through investment in metals or the military, investment in scientific equipment and instruments. And that's especially true if Mars is strong elsewhere in your chart. It's likely to give you a lot of journeys when Neptune is with Aldebaran. And it's not so good for having children. Danger of accidents, danger of sudden death with this combo. Now, our generation does not have anybody living who has Pluto in a conjunction with Aldebaran, nor are we likely to see anyone with a conjunction of Aldebaran in the course of our lifetime. So I'm going to move on from that. we're going to conclude there, but next month we will have the final of the Royal Stars of Persia series. This will be a look at Antares. We've already touched a little bit on Antares today. We're going to get more deep into it next video next month, but I feel that I will also do a final star in this series. I'm going to look at Speaker. And the reason I'm going to look at Speaker is that it is the only other prominent fixed star that resides on the ecliptic plane. So therefore, it can provide an influence in a person's life when it's in a conjunction with a planet. None of the other stars do that. It's only the royal stars and Speaker that give influence in a person's life through an actual conjunction. The rest are involved with the Paran theory. So in the future, I might do one-off videos exploring other fixed stars and their influences, but these 5 are the key influences in our astrological work based on the conjunctions alone. So that's just to remind everybody: Formal Heart, Regulus, Aldebaran, Antares, and Speaker. In my Royal Stars Academy, I will be exploring the effect of parens, as I said, to fixed stars, which is what makes other fixed stars not residing on the ecliptic active in a person's chart. And I can't wait to share that with you, but it won't be until 2024-25 when I actually produce that level of my Royal Stars Academy. We're starting in February with the introductory level for people who are new to astrology and want to understand the foundations and the basics. Cover all of that in, I think it's like 20 hours of videos and a workbook that's 80 pages long, with a lot of room for note-taking and a lot of information provided in the workbook. So it's a great asset to you in your astrological journey and understanding. And then from there, level 1, we will progress in 2023 to level 2, when we are looking at a lot of other special things like fixed stars potentially, also transits, progressions, other forecasting techniques, dashes, Vedic astrology. We're going to look at Hellenistic astrology. I could go on and on. If you haven't already signed up to receive my newsletter, and I'm assuming everybody has, but you will get information about this wonderful course that I'm going to release in the next month. Throughout January, I'll be sending out information including the syllabus, the costing, where to go to, sign up, all of that sort of thing. And I can't wait to share it with you. But for now, I hope you've been enjoying this series where we're looking at the royal stars of Persia.